The man was enormous. In her memoir, Ingrid Bergman is completely honest about everything. The 29th of August, 1915, found Ingrid Bergman beginning her life in Stockholm, Sweden. She was raised in a milieu that was distant from the glitz and glamour of the entertainment industry. The early years of her life were marred by tragedy. The death of her mother occurred when she was only 3 years old, and the passing of her cherished father, a photographer who had instilled in her an early love of images and performance, occurred when she was only 12 years old. The stage provided her with both an escape and a calling, despite the fact that she was nurtured by relatives despite being an orphan and shy. Despite the fact that she had a reserved personality, Bergman demonstrated an incredible capacity to articulate emotion at an early age, and she pursued acting with unyielding commitment. She received her education at the illustrious Royal Dramatic Theatre School in Stockholm, which was also responsible for the training of Greta Garbo, another legendary figure from Sweden. It didn't take long for her talent to distinguish her from others, and before long, she was making appearances in Swedish films, where her radiant presence and natural acting technique garnered praise from the film critics. One of her early breakout performances was in the Swedish film Intermezzo, which was released in 1936. This picture would eventually propel her to international popularity when it was adapted in Hollywood. As a result of an invitation extended by producer David Olsnick, Bergman arrived in Hollywood in 1939 with the intention of playing the role of Leslie Howard in the American adaptation of the love story Intermezzo. She stood in stark contrast to the more stylized stars of the day with her delicate, unaffected beauty, gentle accent, and heartfelt performances. Her accent was gentle. Over the course of the early 1940s, Ingrid swiftly established herself as one of the most sought-after actors due to the fact that she attracted audiences. Her ascent was lightning, fast and beguiling. She went on to star in a series of legendary films over the course of the subsequent several years, which demonstrated her adaptability and emotional depth. Her portrayal of Ilsun in Casablanca, 1942, in which she co-starred with Humphrey Bogart, is considered to be one of her most famous performances. Bergman's portrayal of a woman who is divided between love and responsibility is at the heart of the film's enduring appeal, which has led to the picture becoming one of the most admired films in the history of cinema. Her dazzling visage, particularly in the heartfelt passages that took place at Rick's Cafe, will remain ingrained in the memories of moviegoers all over the world for forever. Bergman had numerous nominations for the Academy Award as a result of her work during this time period, which garnered her great renown. She was awarded her first Academy Award for Best Actress in 1944 for her captivating performance in the film Gaslight, in which she played the role of a lady who is gradually led to believe that she is going insane. The tremendous theatrical skill that she brought to the role was demonstrated by the psychological intensity and vulnerability that she brought to those roles. This was followed by several remarkable parts, one of which was in the film Notorious, which was directed by Alfred Hitchcock and released in 1946. In this film, she starred opposite Cary Grant in a nuanced story that involved espionage, desire, and treachery. Her talent to command the screen with grace and emotional sincerity was demonstrated once more for the second time. In order to pursue her passion, she relocated to Italy, where she worked alongside Rossellini on a number of neorealist films, such as Stromboli 1950, Europa 51, and Journey to Italy. In spite of the fact that these films did not achieve commercial success at the time, they were later acknowledged for the impact they had on contemporary cinema and the daring experiments they had undertaken. Bergman made a spectacular comeback to American cinema in 1956 with her performance in Anastasia, for which she received her second Academy Award. This came after she had spent several years working in other countries of the world. a symbolic welcome back from the industry that had previously snubbed her as a member of the workforce. It was through her ongoing participation in films from both Europe and the United States that she shone time and again that she was among the most versatile and fearless actors of her generation. She also received acclaim on the stage and in television, including her performance in A Woman Called Gyula, for which she won an Emmy, in which she played the role of Israeli Prime Minister Goldir. Through the course of her career, Ingrid Bergman received a total of many distinctions and awards, including 3 Academy Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, a Tony Award, and a total of 7 nominations for the Academy Awards. She worked with some of the most renowned directors of the 20th century, such as Alfred Hitchcock, Ingmar Bergman, Sidney Lumet, and No Related, and she was able to perform in 5 different languages. Nevertheless, it was her apparent honesty and quiet dignity that drew her to audiences of all ages and eras, regardless of the plaudits she received. Ingrid Bergman was a lady who refused to be restricted by the narrow standards of her day. She lived her life, acted well, and refused to be confined by those expectations, in spite of the fact that she was facing the possibility of having her achievements overshadowed by scandal. She never sacrificed her integrity or her dedication to her profession. Over the course of her personal life, she went through a range of experiences, including marriages, divorces, parenthood, illness, and deep highs and lows. She faced each and every one of them with an extraordinary poise. In 1937, Ingrid Bergman, a Swedish actress who was recognized for her beauty and ability, tied the knot for the first time with Peter Aaron Lindstrom. Unlike the glamour of Hollywood and worldwide cinema which Bergman lived, Lindstrom was a recognized medical expert, notably a neurosurgeon. This reflected a totally different world from the one that Bergman inhabited. The difficulties of Bergman's burgeoning celebrity and her increasing absorption in the film industry marked their marriage, which was originally secure and appeared to be traditional. However, this marriage was marked by Bergman's rising stardom. The only child that Ingrid and Peter Lindstrom had together was a daughter named Pia Lindstrom, who was born in 1938. Pia Lindstrom would go on to become a prominent television journalist and news anchor in her own right. The couple's relationship gradually became strained, despite the fact that they appeared to be a traditional family on the surface. This was primarily due to the demands of Bergman's job, as well as the personal issues she experienced as she grew older and became more renowned on a global scale. Ingrid Bergman's life took a dramatic turn in the late 1940s when she began a personal relationship with the Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini. This relationship was extremely significant for Bergman. Rossellini was a widely recognized and highly important director who is most known for his pioneering work in the field of Italian neo-realist filmmaking. Their romance started while Bergman was still married to Lindstrom, which was a fact that caused a significant amount of controversy because it occurred at the time. Due to the fact that it ran counter to the norms that society has established around marriage and faithfulness, this relationship was not only intense but also contentious. Since Bergman gave birth to Rossellini's kid, a girl named Isabella Rossellini, who was born in 1952, the affair has been brought to the attention of the general public. Not only did the birth of this kid represent a dramatic rupture in Bergman's personal life, but it also provoked considerable scrutiny from the media and debate from the general public. In 1950, after the birth of their daughter Isabella, Ingrid Bergman filed for divorce from Peter Lindstrom, bringing an end to their 13-year marriage. Shortly after that, Bergman and Rossellini tied the knot in Mexico, thereby establishing their status as a married couple. They tied the knot, which signaled the beginning of a new phase in Bergman's life, one that was intricately intertwined with Rossellini's cinematic vision and Italian culture. Roberto Ingmar Rossellini, who was born in 1954, and Issa Ingrid Roslini, who was born in 1956, were the couple's two further children that they received together. The marriage was confronted with a number of obstacles, including professional pressures, cultural divides, and intense public scrutiny as a result of their earlier scandal. Despite the fact that they collaborated creatively and that their family grew, the marriage was confronted with a number of hurdles. In the end, Bergman and Roslini divorced in 1957, bringing an end to a complicated and significant collaboration that had left an indelible impact on both their personal lives and the records of their respective cinematic careers. Just 1 year after her divorce from Roslini, Ingrid Bergman tied the knot with Lars Schmidt, a Swedish theater entrepreneur and impresario, in the year 1958. In addition to playing a significant role in promoting Bergman's theatrical work in Europe, Schmidt's relationship with the actress provided her with a more secure and private personal environment after she had been involved in public scandal for a number of years. Since 1958 until 1975, they were married, and their marriage lasted for nearly 20 years. Bergman was able to maintain a healthy balance between her professional and personal life throughout this period of time. Along the way, she discovered support in Schmidt's commitment to the arts and his administration of theater plays. However, as is the case with many long-term marriages, their partnership finally ended in divorce, bringing an end to yet another chapter in Bergman's intricate and multifaceted personal life. Ingrid Bergman did not only allude to Gregory Peck's physical height when she discussed him in her memoir, despite the fact that Ingrid Bergman's description of Gregory Peck remains indelible. When she wrote, "He was massive," the term reverberated with a much broader meaning than simply a judgment on his height or broad-shouldered build. It was a comment that was filled with amazement, admiration, and something that was almost confessional, as if she was recalling a presence that had previously influenced her to the point of being overwhelmed. When it came to his physical appearance, Gregory Peck exemplified the traditional masculinity of Hollywood. In addition to being taller than the majority of his contemporaries, his dominating stature frequently created an indelible impact not just on audiences but also on his fellow actors. Although Bergman had worked with legendary actors from all around the world, including Humphrey Bogart and Cary Grant, she was nevertheless awestruck by the sheer presence that Peck radiated the moment he stepped onto a set. Her observation was that he did not enter a room. It was filled by him. Despite the fact that his physique was statuesque and almost Roman in its dignity, it never presented a frightening appearance. A tenderness could be seen in his stance, and an elegance could be seen in his motions, both of which served to soften the brute strength that his body represented. At the same time, however, Bergman was referring to his soul when she said that he was gigantic. The moral compass that Peck possessed, the calm intensity that he exuded, and the great honesty with which he carried himself, the sum of all of these things formed an immense amount. She recalled that he exuded an air of gravitas, since it seemed as if the very air itself listened to what he had to say. She mentioned how he had the ability to make you feel as though your words mattered greatly even during the most banal chats. He had this skill, she admitted. You couldn't lie to him, and she was right. He had eyes that saw through you, and not in a manner that made you feel exposed, but in a way that made you want to be honest despite the fact that you were being seen through. When they were working together, both on-screen and off, there was a tension that hovered between professional appreciation and a powerful unspoken chemistry. This tension was present all throughout their time together. Bergman stated that there were times when I would glance at him across the scene and I would forget my lines. This was not because I was scared, rather, it was because I was actually transported by the man who was in front of me for the performance. It was not passion, as she described it. Rather, it was veneration, a type of emotional surrender to someone who appeared to be carved out of something that would last forever. Additionally, Bergman noted how Peake endured the burden of his popularity with a level of humility that left a profound impression on her. Gregory managed to maintain his grounding in a world where vanity was a necessary ability for existence. According to what she wrote, he never needed to be the loudest voice in the room. His quiet frequently conveyed more than 100 different talks, not for the glory, but because he regarded playing as a method to tell the truth. Even if it was fiction, she noticed that he took his roles seriously. That was the reason he took them seriously. The kind of goodness that you battle for, scene after scene, was the kind that he believed in. He did not believe in the kind of goodness that is naive. Bergman disclosed in her memoir that her time spent working with Gregory Peake provided her with the opportunity to feel challenged, seen, and eventually transformed. She reflected on the fact that he had left an impression on her, not only as an actor, but also as a woman. He brought to my attention the fact that greatness is not about perfection, but rather regarding presence. In every definition of the word, Gregory was present in the most profound and glorious respect. It was not a casual remark or a headline for a tabloid when she wrote, "He was massive," because it was not a throwaway term. It was a summary of a man whose magnitude touched her in more ways than she had ever thought, including physically, emotionally, artistically, and spiritually. He had a profound impact on her. Ingrid Bergman's life took a dramatic and unexpected turn during the theatrical run of The Constant Wife in London in the early 1970s. This turn of events occurred during the time period. She was still commanding stages with the same fascination that had long defined her cinematic career when she became aware of a concerning physical aberration, a hard lump under her left breast. This was during this period when she was still commanding stages. Fast action